Welcome to Brain Info Live, for everyone in the brain health community. Brain Info Live is about hope, health, support, education, and you. Whether you're living with Alzheimer's or a caregiver, family member, or loved one of someone who is, Brain Info Live is here for everybody.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the 18th episode of Brain Info Live. I am Mike Kincaid, your host of the Boston, New England show. I'm also the Director of Diversity Recruitment here in Boston at the Massachusetts Alzheimer's Disease Research Center of Mass General Brigham. And I am so excited about today's show because this is the time of year where it's both amazing, enjoyable, and every word you can think of, but it also can be sad and just a hard time for families. It's the holiday season, and today we're gonna have a talk. We've got Susan coming back, one of my favorite guests, and we're gonna have a conversation on how to have a great holiday with your family, with somebody who's living with dementia, someone who's living with Alzheimer's disease. And I say that deliberately because of the fact that our loved ones, our family members, our friends, they're living with this disease. And we want them to enjoy the holidays just as much as we always have enjoyed the holidays. So Susan and I, we're going to have a great conversation, and I want you to join in this conversation because you know this is I like to always say, this is not a monologue. This is a dialogue. This is your opportunity to ask questions. And so in the Venimo chat, if you've got questions for Susan or myself, you kick those questions out, fire them out, type them in there. If you want to be anonymous, you know, I always say the secret squirrel, yeah, or on Facebook. That's right. We're also on Facebook Live. If you want to be anonymous about it, that's cool. Just, you know, hit that thing that says, don't let Mike know my name, but let Mike ask my question, because this is a dialogue. We're going to talk about this. And then, as always, we're going to wrap up with a survey, not a survey, a quiz, pop quiz. And for all of our regular viewers out there, you know that if at some point you're going to get the answer to the question. And that's why you guys always do an amazing job. I'm really excited about this because this is a topic that I have been talking about for years. I have been telling families, you can still make memories, positive memories, great memories, good memories over the holidays. And you can also include your loved ones who are living with dementia in those memories. So I want us to get started. And as always, we're going to jump right off with Jay Lou. You know, I always say, I wonder what he's going to be wearing today. So Jay Lou, take it away, man. Let's go.
Hey, this your boy Jay Lou. I want to welcome you to Brain Info Live. Today, if you have ankle weights, water bottles, heavy boots, heavy shoes, or you can use your own leg as weights, we're going to body sculpt that lower body, but guess what? We also going to target those abs. So let's get going in 5 seconds. Let's go. Okay, if you have any knee problems and you need to work on those quads, I'm going to show you how to do simple exercises. You can grab onto the chair, lean back, bring the leg up, flex the toe up, and extend. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Let's switch legs, lean back. 1, 2, come on. 3, 4, and 5. Okay, if you want to get the inner parts of the quad, turn the toe out a little bit. Turn it out, and let's go. 1, 2, 3, 3. If you want to raise it up a little higher, you can. 4 and 5. Let's switch legs, toe out, and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So if you want to get the outer quad, turn the toe in. Ready? And go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Other leg, turn the toe in and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right, I want to get a little bit of that hamstring, and we're going to get a light stretch and then pull. Ready? Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm just going to stay on this side. You ready? And let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, now we're going to work on the hip flexor and plus those obliques. Y'all ready? Lift the leg up. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Keep your body isolated, upright, back straight, and let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Great job. Now I'm gonna do like a upward motion so we can really target that quad, also stretch those glutes, and get those abs. Y'all ready? Sweep. 1, 2, 3. There we go. 4, and 5. Other leg. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right, our next one. I'm gonna go out of the ankle and I come back. So it's out. Boom. You see how I dip and bring it back. 5. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Other side. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Great job. Okay, now I want you to open this leg up, lean a little bit, and we're gonna lift this leg up and hold on. Ready? Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're really getting those obliques in that hip. And good. Other leg, lean, and go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. Rest. It's almost like a jumping jack. If I had weights in my hand, I'll do the same motion. So it's gonna be 1. That's your motion. Ready? Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Come on. 7, 8, 9, and 10. Great job. Remember we swept forward? Now I want your legs straight. You bend, up, extend, and make a bicycle. Big bicycle. You ready? Let's go. 1, 2, come on. 3, 4, 5. 5 more. Let's go. 1, 2, 3. Come on. 4 and 5. Hey, take that break if you need it. Let's get this other leg and go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Come on. 5, 6, 7. Get it up. 8, 9, and 10. Great job. We just did a little body sculpting, added those abs in. We worked those hips, those glutes, those quads, and a little bit of rehab on the knees. This your boy J. Lou, and see you later. Bye.
I'm telling you, if you don't get a workout with J. Lou, And remember, you can always watch the rerun and do the workout again. Um, and I always say in the comfort of your home, but I mean, who knows? Maybe you're watching this right now at work, at the office, at who knows where. Hopefully, you're not in the car driving, but that's another story. So we've got an interesting video. Again, the theme for today is holidays and warm memories. And so coming up now, I want to introduce our video. It's from Natalie Edmonds. She's a board certified psychologist and chief executive officer of Dementia Care Blazers. She's going to be talking briefly about the type of mentality caregivers should go into the holidays with. In other words, you want to prepare going into the holidays. So again, you can have and make and cherish those warm memories. So without further ado, as I always say, let's go to the videotape.
Okay, so how can you enjoy the holidays as a care blazer? I do believe it is possible to have some moments of joy, but we have to make sure we're not working against ourselves, that you aren't doing some of the things I see a lot of care blazers do that just makes your situation worse. Number one is comparing your current holiday season to holidays of the past, especially holidays when you are not in this caregiving role. Most of the time when you compare your current holiday season to holidays before caregiving, it just brings you down. It makes you feel sorry for yourself. It makes you feel sad. So my first recommendation is care blazer, notice when you're doing that. Your brain will do it automatically, that's okay. But when you notice you're doing that and you're comparing how things are now to how things were in the past, catch yourself and just bring yourself back to the present moment. We want to catch ourselves when our brain automatically starts going to places and doing things that don't serve us and just make us feel worse. I also want you to remember that most of what you are seeing online and on TV and what people are talking about, those are their highlight reels. Those are their best days, their best situations, right? Most people aren't posting all of the behind the scenes and challenges going on in their life. They're posting what they want you to see. So please keep that in mind too as you're scrolling through Facebook or Instagram and you're seeing all these lovely family gatherings and photos. It would be very easy to assume everybody else has everything going perfectly and your situation is nothing like that. Please keep in mind what you're seeing is not the complete picture. Number two, one of the biggest mistakes or challenges I see care blazers make is because they can't do exactly what they want, they don't do much at all. Because you may not be able to celebrate the holidays ideally, exactly like you want, your wishes, what's ideal is not possible, you may not make any effort to do anything because what you would like and what is possible are very far apart. I was giving some hard truth to my care course members recently, and I was basically telling them what's ideal has passed. That ship has sailed, right? The most ideal holiday season for you probably doesn't involve caring for a loved one with dementia, dealing with the challenges and health issues that come along with that. It's probably nowhere in that, right? So what's ideal is no longer possible, but what is the next best thing? What is the best case scenario for your situation? Again, this is about catching your brain when it's going down this road of, well, I'd like to be able to go visit family, but that's not possible. Or I'd like to be able to go host a nice holiday gathering where all my friends and family come over like they used to in the past, but that's not possible because my loved one gets really upset when people come over, right? Notice your brain doing that. But just because certain things are no longer possible doesn't mean other things are not. So I want you to ask yourself, what is something you would enjoy? What is something you would like to do this holiday season that is possible? Maybe you need to make some adaptations. Maybe you need to tweak it and change it a bit, but you still can do some things. Don't throw away all possibilities because the main things that you would like are no longer possible. For some of you, you may enjoy having parties over, decorating, cooking, going all out, right? And given your loved one maybe not being able to participate, maybe not wanting to bathe or shower, maybe being rude or saying inappropriate things to people who come to visit, those things may not be something that you want to try this holiday season. But what could you try? I want you to ask yourself these questions. What is the best case scenario that I can do in this situation right now, in my caregiving situation? What could you do? What could you enjoy? What is in your control? That is another thing I talked a lot to my care course members about during our special holiday training was what is currently in your control. It is really easy to focus on all the things outside of your control, what your loved one says, what they do, what other people say, what other people do. All of those things we love to focus on, yet we can't do much about them. What can we do? Focus on what's in your control and then take the steps that you want that will bring you a little bit of joy and pleasure this holiday season. So for example, one of my care course members, she usually hosts family from out of town. They come out of town, they visit her, and she usually does all the tree decorating, the cooking, all the hosting, did everything on her own. Her husband is at a point in his dementia where he is no longer able to help her with all of those preparations. And this Careblazer was feeling very overwhelmed and stressed that nothing is prepared for the holidays, yet the family members are still coming in from out of town. So one of the things that we talked about is what is absolutely important for you? What is something that still brings you joy, right? That you still want to make sure you can do, but take the pressure of everything else off. That's another thing I want you to take away from this. You don't have to do everything, but you can do some things. Take the pressure of how things looked in the past off of yourself. Ask yourself, how do you want them to look now? So for this particular Careblazer, we talked about what is super important for you. What is something that you want to make sure happens? And she mentioned she really wants to make sure the tree gets decorated. And we talked a little bit about that. And she says for her, it's her great-grandson or great-grandson who comes really loves the tree and the lights. But given her advanced age, she could not get the tree. She could not set it up on her own. She needed some help and her husband was no longer able to help her. So we talked about, well, what is in your control? What could you do in this situation? And she came up with the idea of her family coming into town. They come into town about 2 days before the holidays. Could they participate in helping put up the tree? Even with her grandson, could they help with decorating it, maybe turning it into a new family tradition, maybe having some hot cocoa or drinks and cookies while you decorate the tree, putting on some nice music? All of a sudden, something that was super stressful and she was feeling really bad and down on herself for not being able to do, she was now able to think, how can I turn this into possibly a new tradition, right? So her challenge was to reach out to some family members who were coming into town and ask if they would be willing to have a tree decorating party with her when they showed up. Careblazer, that's the kind of approach I want you to take. Again, remember, the ideal situation is no longer possible. What is the next best case scenario? Get very clear on what's important to you, what you really want to happen during the caregiving season that you have control over, and then take the steps that you can to have control over that situation and to make that come to life. All right, and one final thing I want to mention, because I see this being a big challenge for a lot of Careblazers. Your loved one may not be able to fully participate in everything. Your loved one might not even be fully showing their interest or engaging or having conversations, but that doesn't mean they're not enjoying themselves. So often we interpret the situation through our minds, which are fully aware of what's going on. We might be fully aware that our loved one is no longer having fun conversations with the grandkids, or our loved one is no longer helping with the cooking or decorating the cookies, right? But don't mistake that as a sign that they are not enjoying themselves. Your loved one may very well be enjoying the beautiful, colorful lights. Your loved one might very well be enjoying eating the cookie you bring to them. Your loved one might be enjoying watching the kids, even if they're not having a conversation with them, right? So we just have to be very clear that when we're viewing this situation and how our loved one is doing, we are not only viewing it from our full awareness, we're also taking the time to look at our loved ones, pay attention to their nonverbals, pay attention to what they're trying to communicate. They may very well be having a good time, even if they're not fully participating to the extent that they used to in the past and to the extent that everybody else in the family is participating. Okay? Careblazer, I am challenging you to be kind to yourself this holiday season. Be kind in the thoughts you're having to yourself about this holiday season. Be kind in the pressure and expectations you're having yourself on during this holiday season. And Careblazer, you survived 2020. You survived 2021 as a Careblazer, right? You're gonna survive this holiday season. That's without a doubt. My goal is for you to actually have some pleasurable moments, right? And the way that you're going to get to some of those pleasurable moments is by letting go of some of these things that your brain is going to do automatically that don't serve you, that are going to keep you down.
I love that phrase, care blazer. That I'm gonna steal that. So, all right. Oh, wait, Susan. I got to make this official, so I got to introduce you. I got to read the bio. But hey, welcome back to the show. I'm so glad to have you back. So, let me make it official. So, Dr. Susan Wehry is the Chief of Geriatrics at the University of New England College of Osteopathic Medicine and the Director of Aging Me, Maine's Geriatric Workforce Enhancement Program, a geriatric psychiatrist with over 35 years of experience. Dr. Wehry promotes healthy, meaningful aging to students, policymakers, health and human service professionals, older adults, and family givers. And we have the pleasure of having her on Brain Info Live for the third time. Woohoo! So I know that's
I with a warm welcome like that. How could I not want to come back, Mike? Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Thanks. Oh, before I forget, Susan. So once again, for everybody out there watching the show, if you want to jump in on the conversation, because remember, this is a dialogue, not a monologue. If you want to jump in on the conversation, you can do the chat up in the on my screen. It's in the upper right-hand corner. Put in your questions, kick them out, whether you're on Facebook or whether you're on Vimeo, and come on in. The water's fine. So, Susan, we got a lot to unpack, and I loved what she was saying. It's today's show, but the question that popped in my mind right off the bat is as somebody who's dealt with the holidays and a person with dementia, one of the things that I had to do was I had to share with family members what to expect, and I noticed that she jumped in with everybody already knows. So let's start with, how do you tell family members what to expect?
Yeah, it's a great question, Mike. When I think about this, of course, one of the things I have to remind myself is that everyone living with dementia is at a different phase of their journey, right? They're at a different point. So I want people, as they're listening, to think, oh, that wouldn't work for us, or no, he couldn't. But I think that it's always important to start with asking the person with dementia, what would you like me to say? What would you like people to know what to expect as they come to our home for dinner, or as they come over for the holidays, or what would you like to tell them? And sort of invite them into the conversation, if you will, about the disclosure. So that's always my starting point. But then I think it's also important to let family members know what you've seen about what's going well as part two, right? So instead of saying, you might find that dad can't carry on a conversation as much as you'd like, I like to flip it and say, you might find that dad really likes to go over the family album, but for shorter times than he used to. Instead of saying, we got to keep it quiet because dad doesn't like loud music, saying, dad really enjoys listening to, and then naming whatever it is he does. We might want to keep the volume a little bit lower. So I emphasize not what's wrong with the person, like how have they changed since the last family visit, but rather, what have I learned as the care partner about what makes things really go well for both of us? Then, if there are actual deficits, that would be helpful for people to know so that they can modify their behavior, then I'd probably close with that. But I always start with, what do you want me to tell them? And let me tell them about the ways in which things are going well for us, and then close with, here's what to expect. What do you think about that?
I, Susan, that's why I love having you on the show. That is a great way to kick off because I love it. I never thought it never dawned on me, and I guess I'm going to apologize to everyone. It never dawned on me to ask the person living with it, "What do you want me to say?" That's a
Yeah.
great starting point. What do you want me to say? One of the things that I've had to share with family and friends is in prepping for coming over. Um, don't forget about the things that, like those comments like, "Don't you remember me?" Because that's
Hmm.
not what it's about. It's about right now, and the idea of like, let's crack open the photo albums and walk down memory lane, and hey, that's so and so, and that's so and so, as opposed to, there was a commercial years ago like, do you know who I am? No, this is not the
Um,
time.
yeah.
So let's jump in with, so what are the biggest reasons for the holidays, with that the holidays are an emotional time for people?
Yeah, I think Natalie addressed some of this as well. I think one
Mhm.
of the biggest reasons these are such emotional times is that they are so laden with expectations, both positive and negative. Some people approach the holidays with such joyful anticipation, and then maybe disappointed. Other people approach the holidays with a certain amount of dread and don't make room for what can be positive. But I think some of the biggest reasons that they're so emotional is that they are a time when families come together who may not have been together for a while. And there are, of course, always some unfinished business among families, a lot of different, family dynamics, if you will. And I think also that there is, in this social media age, as Natalie also mentioned, a tendency to look at other people's lives and find them better. And so I think that there's that adds to a certain emotional anticipation and expectation, that then there's this worry you're not going to meet it. Um, and it's a time of wanting things to go well. And people impose, I think, burdens on themselves that may be a little bit unrealistic about making everything just so. I've always been sort of interested in the impact also of all of these holiday TV specials that almost always have a happy, or at least a very poignant ending, and in which all family conflicts are resolved in the matter of an hour, at most an hour and a half. And of course, that's not life. But to the extent that there are certain behaviors, or there are certain traditions like watching a holiday TV special, you can again fall into that trap. And so I think those are some of the reasons. And finally, I guess I'd say it's um, holidays have always been, right, a concentration of memories that include music and food and activity and get together and giving and gifts and gratitude. So almost by their nature, they're activating all parts of our brain, mind, I mean, our body, mind, and all parts of ourselves. And most memories are a little bittersweet, or can be. Even without a household with somebody living with dementia, it's quite possible that there's a member of the family that's not there this year. And there will be always, for everyone, that first holiday when mom wasn't there, that first holiday when dad wasn't there. So that's what I mean by them being not fraught exactly, but full.
Okay, that's a lot to unpack. So let's start with emotional health. I remember the first holiday after my younger brother passed away.
Mm,
And it was, we had a setting for him at the table, and it was
mm,
emotional. It
yes.
was, it was Thanksgiving, and I'm not going to deny it. It was sad. And,
Hmm.
and, and I think back that if one of my family members at that time had dementia, how would we
Hmm.
explain Tim not being there?
Hmm.
How would we explain um, that setting that was very, very, very obvious, sitting at the
Mhm.
table. And and I guess that where I'm going with this is that, you know, for families that are trying to acknowledge, respect, pay homage to those who, there's an old saying, you pour out some wine for those, for those who aren't here, so to speak. But on
Yes.
the other hand, with the person living with dementia, you've now cued them on something that they've forgotten. So how do we
Mm-hmm.
get over that hurdle of setting up an emotional roller coaster ride?
Yeah, it's a great question, Mike, and a sensitive one. And I think that
Hmm.
the answer is, as always, it's going to be different for every family. Because you see, a family that is comfortable with sad feelings doesn't panic when they arise in themselves or in the person with dementia. So, we notice an empty place setting that needs to be explained. But we don't know, unless we ask or observe, how the person with dementia is experiencing that empty place setting.
Mm,
They may,
good point. Yes.
just thinking, oh, somebody else is coming. They may not associate it with mom or dad or younger brother or sister or whomever having passed away. So, one, we can't know for sure, or we can't know what it's going to trigger. We also know that there is a way in which living with dementia does not rob you of your experience of feeling what other people are feeling and wanting to connect affectively, so to speak, so that it's it is important not to it's important to pay attention, right? Because if the empty place setting really triggers a very negative response in anyone, but particularly in the person with dementia who may not be able to have it explained. I think then that the simple act is, Tim's not coming. I think we'll just remove this plate and move on to the here and now, right? As opposed to
Yeah.
trying to explain it. On the other hand, to not call too much attention to it, to raise a glass so that the family can continue to enjoy a ritual that has meaning is actually quite positive for the person with dementia, even if cognitively it may have a different meaning or they don't make total sense. Emotionally, they'll be able to join you. I guess that's what I would sort of predict about that.
So we got a question from the, I'd like to say from the audience. And so as a caregiver, but I'm going to say as a care blazer, because I'm still in that line. As a care blazer, do you try and power through, or should you share if you're sad during the holidays? And Natalie kind
Oh,
of talked about that.
yes. And, um, I really believe the most important thing we can do for people with dementia, for each other, is to be authentic. So I think that it is perfectly fine to let the person know that you are sad because honestly, they will know. And if they don't know why you're sad, then it'll be harder to understand why you're powering through. However, it may also be, depending on sort of the level or the depth of sadness or your capacity at that moment to regulate that emotion, you may need to take a break. You may need to excuse yourself or absent yourself, or you can just say, I'm okay. I'm just feeling a little sad at the moment, and then deal with it as you will. Trying to power down and push it down and power through ultimately does a tremendous disservice to the care partner, and it will really impact your health in a very negative way. So be honest, be real, be gentle with yourself, be kind to yourself, and know that you're going to feel sad. We all feel sad. It's part of the human experience. Don't let it throw you. Same for the person with dementia. People with dementia can be sad. And one of the things that I've always said is that the great mercy of dementia, particularly later on, is that the triggering event, if everyone doesn't react, is forgotten in a very short period of
Yeah.
time. And so that feeling will pass if not too much is made of it. It's a very Buddhist way of being, actually. The sort of the feeling comes and the feeling goes, and just watch it go on down the river.
You know, it's so funny. You hit it on the head. We worry more about it than they do. and
That's
and,
exactly
and
right.
it, so Natalie brought up a good scenario, which it happens more, not just in the world of dementia, but with elders, where people want to continue a family tradition when they're no longer physically able to do so. An example I always give is having seen an elder who didn't have a dementia, but still was struggling to cut a turkey with an electric knife. And
Ah,
the carving knife, and I remember sitting there going, "Please God, don't let him lose a finger." And then
mhm.
we got through it, but the conversation later among some of us was, it might be time for us to make a ritual of the passing of the carver to
Mhm.
the elder of the next generation. Let's make a production. Let's honor him for having done it for so long, but make a production out of passing the torch. And that's when Natalie was talking about the tree, and I was thinking that flashed in my head. Tell me what you think about that.
Yeah, Mike, I love that example, and I and I like yours even more, because it's so engaging, right? It's so respectful, and it acknowledges the nature of of being part of an intergenerational family tree, so to speak. Yes, I think it's a great idea, and I think what care partners, what all of us find is that we carry these assumptions about what we have to do, what our families expect. Oh, my grandson will be so disappointed if I don't put up the tree. And that may be true, it may not be true, but there's probably another way to do it. And I think what people are so surprised to find when they say to families, I could really use some help putting up that tree this year. Can you come a day early? Or since you're already planning to come a couple days earlier, could we make that into an event? Let's put up the tree together, trim the tree together. That it really is okay for family traditions to be done in a new way. It's not that they're being let go, but it brings in more family. So I think that's a great idea. I love passing on the carving, and I love anticipating rather than and saying maybe this year somebody else will do it than waiting for that thumb to be cut off. But I think everything you hear, Mike, and what I'm saying, what Natalie said, and what you have said so eloquently is we want to we want the holidays to be fun and gentle and peaceful, and we want to anticipate as much as we can so that we can make that more likely than not to happen.
I'm going to share a Christmas memory. We
Mhm.
never put our Christmas tree up until Christmas Eve. And the reason why was, as my mom would say, so that it gave us something to do on Christmas Eve other than
Mm.
sitting around waiting
Mhm.
for Santa to show up. Now, I did not find out until years later and after he had passed that the reason why we put it up Christmas Eve was my dad would go out and buy it Christmas Eve because it was cheaper. But but the point was, if I and I kept that tradition going with my children, not just because it was
Uh-huh.
cheaper, but it gave them something to do on Christmas Eve. But that leads me to this next question. And we would growing up, we would have a ton of people over the house.
Mm.
What's your opinion about, is there too many people? Is there too much stimulation? Is it possible to just put that loved one who's living with dementia in a situation that is going to make them uncomfortable?
Oh, absolutely. And yet, I don't want listeners to have the impression that it means no company. It really is kind of a trial and error, and
Mm,
observing all year round, right? Like, um, it is probably true for most people living with dementia that crowds are problematic. It's hard to track multiple conversations. It's hard to sort what's going on. There's a certain, a certain level of noise and gaiety that the person may not quite be able to tap into. So absolutely, you can have too many visitors. You can also have too few. And the only way to know is to observe kind of from everything you've been doing for a whole year, right? What seems to bring the person with dementia more pleasure and what seems to bring them less? Um, and um, and then gauge those family events accordingly. So it may be that instead of having the usual 6 people over, you have 2 of them. It may be that you have 4 instead of 8. And it may be that even if you have the 4 or the 6, if your home can accommodate it, that you create nooks of relative
Yep.
calm, keep that environment stable, and, to keep the person's routine as stable as possible, time people eat or sort of what they eat, whatever it is. So a lot of this, frankly, is common sense with an open heart, that you watch what's working, you keep doing more of that. You watch what's not, you stop doing it. So too many visitors, yep, you can have them. Too few, yep, that can happen. You got to get that Goldilocks kind of visitor ratio. And then within that, create the space where the person with dementia gets to have the kind of time they want, whether it's a one-on-one or a one-on-two, or just quietly observing what's happening.
Okay, Susan, I'm going to steal that line. Common sense with an open heart. That is,
Yeah.
oh my God. I'm writing that down as soon
Steal
as we
it.
get done. And I will
It's
give you
yours.
credit. But all right, so we got another question from the audience. Um, oh, what should you do if you start noticing some decline for the first time at the holiday party? If for the first time, now you and I both know you've been getting little signals throughout however long that something's not right, but it's not oh my God type moments. It's that was weird. But all of a sudden at the holiday party, Nana doesn't remember the name of Uncle Ray. Or I think back to my grandmother where all of a sudden I became Uncle Tony. And you can't, and that becomes so blatant. What should you what as a caregiver, what would you how would you respond?
Wow. Just trying to put myself into that scenario, right? Trying to feel that for a minute. And I think that a lot depends on Nana's response. I always go back to try to first stand in the shoes of the person who's having the behavior or the experience that other people are reacting to. And so,
Yeah.
one thing I think that care partners can do, and what other loving people around can do, is to try to get that "oh my God" look out of your face, because that's also what Nana is going to be responding to, right? So, I think that that one of the things you can do, just sort of like an easy thing to do, is if you see Nana struggling, just to follow up on your scenario, she suddenly doesn't know who Uncle Ray is. That if you're nearby, you can use the name and say, Uncle Ray, it's so good to see you. I see you're talking with Nana. It's been about a year, isn't it, since you have seen Nana? And keep trying to put out some little clues till you see what Nana alights on. Because as we know with dementia, people don't like lose everything. It's that Swiss
Right.
cheese kind of thing people talk about, right?
Right.
So there might be something. That's a much gentler way of saying it than saying, for example, that's Uncle Ray, don't you remember? Or you remember Uncle Ray when no, that's precisely the problem. I don't. So you just very gently say, Uncle Ray, glad to see you, glad you could come. And I believe the last time you were here is X. You and Nana had such a good time looking at whatever, going for a walk. So the care partner supplies the memory without calling attention to the fact that it's lost. And the person
Uh-huh.
who is seeing it for the first time, it's not that you try to hide your surprise, it's that you just don't get too attached to your surprise. And you follow the lead of the care partner and you follow the affect of the person with dementia. How are they feeling in the moment? Go with that. Try to alleviate their anxiety. If they're simply now happy to see you, regardless of whether they know who you are, be happy to see them in return. I think that's kind of the way I would suggest handling it.
That, and see, that's perfect. So Susan, we're almost out of time, and you know how I always wrap up this conversation. If there's one thing you want folks to remember about what we've talked about, what would that one take home aha moment
Oh,
be? That one thing that you want them
you
to
know, this
remember.
is yeah, this is always the hard one for me, and I bet for all your guests. But if there were one thing, I would say remember that you really can't control everything. Control what you can, anticipate your needs as well as the needs of others, and attend to them. Because we actually can't control everything. In fact, we control very little. So control what you can, go easy on yourself with what you can't, and look forward to the holidays as a time of joy that you will make some new precious memories. Guess that's it. Enjoy and
That's
stay
it.
safe.
All right, Susan. I'm bringing you back. That's not even a
I
question.
hope so.
We got to make this a ritual of just
Yeah.
jumping in there. Uh, and you will be my first 4-time guest. But I,
Great talking with you,
I,
Mike. And
oh, go ahead, finish.
no, I just wanted to say great talking with you, and I wanted to wish you happy holidays as well.
And same to yourself. And
Thank you.
thank you so much. Thank you so very much. Um, Stay warm.
I will. Pleasure.
All right. So that was an amazing. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. And I'm going to share something with you that it was as much fun doing it as it looked. That was amazing. So I'm gonna Alexa, let's go to our poll. We teased it, so let's jump into the poll and see how we do. Our quiz. So, which of these is not good advice for the holidays for dementia caregivers? So, which of these is not good advice? A, celebrate what's important to you. B, involve your loved one with dementia in simple holiday preparations. C, simplify the holidays around the home. Or D, skip all events and functions that you love one can't go to. In other words, so that's what's not a good advice. A, celebrate what's important to you. B, involve your loved ones with dementia in simple holiday preparations. C, simplify the holidays around the home. Or D, skip all events and functions that your loved one who's living with dementia can't go to. And remember what is not good advice. So while we're waiting on, oh wow, that was quick. Wow, that was quick. That was one of the fastest ones. And everybody got it right. It's D. Skip all events and functions that your loved ones living with dementia can't go to. Natalie talked about that in her talk. You No, that's not a good idea to skip events and holidays because you want to be able to enjoy the holidays too. You want to make it enjoyable for yourself as well as everybody else. So I want to jump to resources because we got some really cool resources also on how to help yourselves get through the holidays. So Alexa, let's jump on the resources. So we got from the National Institute of Aging, NIA, holiday hints for Alzheimer's caregivers. From the Alzheimer's Foundation of America, we've got staying safe and joyful tips for a dementia friendly holiday. From the Alzheimer's Association, holiday tip sheets. From here in Boston, from Boston University Alzheimer's Disease Research Center, we've got steps to managing challenging symptoms and behaviors and a dementia tip sheet. You know, these are great resources because as we've heard already, it's this time of the year that is difficult and there is help, there are resources out there. So I want to wrap up with one comment. about an experience that I had years ago. I had the opportunity to hang out in an early stage uh, group of individuals living with Alzheimer's, and there was this one gentleman, and he shared this story. And the story was is that it was around the holidays. I forget which one it was, but his son and daughter-in-law had come over with his grandson, and the grandson goes running into the room and grandpa and is so happy to see him, and his son calls the grandson out of the room and it says to him, now grandpa is sick, don't bother him. And this I he it hurt him so much that he remembered the whole incident, and it was a good year or so later that this had happened. And and he kind of hinted about how it kind of set the mood for that holiday visit was grandpa's sick, and he shared about how he had done all these accomplishments. He was an architect who had designed buildings all over the world, but the one thing he remembered from that holiday was his son said, thinking just because he was living with dementia that he was sick, and it broke his heart. And that's my way of saying that the holidays are about memories, good memories, joy. The holidays are about the season. The holidays are about a time when family and friends come together, and it's okay to talk about remember when, but it's also okay to start making those new memories, as we talked about how to decorate the tree. Start that new tradition. Pass the torch of carving the turkey. Um, do things that and take pictures. We didn't talk about that, but or video or whatever how you do it. But my point though is make those memories of the holidays joyful so that you can pass them on to the next generation. I want to thank everybody for hanging out with me. This has been an amazing show. We've got one more coming up in this year. It's in December. My friend Sandy Arabak, as we're going to be talking about sleep. We're going to be talking about some sleep studies, but it falls in there with the holidays. So come hang out with us. As always, I'm Mike Kincaid, your host, and I want to thank you for hanging out with us. Happy holidays, and I'll see you around the neighborhood. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.